Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. By request from some of my friends at Go Rogue Industries, there's some changes coming to how background checks get done after you complete a Form 4473 is what I think it is. Um, yep, Form 4473. This is what you fill out to get your background check done for a firearm. So, what has happened in the past, and this went into effect October 1st, and this story is from the NRA American ILA. I'm not a big fan of the NRA, but sometimes their law dudes have it right. So, what this does effectively is if you were delayed, so they do a background check, some of us pass right away, some of us get a delayed, some of us get a denial, and then some of us, they just never talk to you. Well, what used to happen is after 3 days of not getting a background check completed, meaning that you've tried, it's up to in the NCIC database, law enforcement has gotten it, you've waited on them, you haven't heard from them after 3 days. Used to be you could proceed with the transfer of the firearm and the sale. New law. After 10 days, you're allowed to appeal the ATF or to basically remind them to get on their horse to check out your background check again. After that, they can then proceed with the sale. So, what do I feel about it? This is just more infringement. What this does is if someone has a military clearance, for example, they have a top secret clearance. I don't know why the hell that blanked for a minute, but that would cause a flag if they were buying a firearm. Okay? In the old system, after 3 days, you could proceed with the sale. To me, even with 3 days or even having to do this, it hasn't stopped any shooting. No background check has done that. Because there is a lot of room for growth in this background check system. Number one, it doesn't interface with any health or mental health type thing. And if it did, how would they legally be able to say yes or no? Okay. Second, if you are not a felon, but you're almost about to be a felon, case in point, domestic violence, you basically can get both parties that are a part of that can't own a firearm if it's done in such a malicious way. That means someone that didn't do anything wrong, who probably needs a firearm because this person is aggressive, can't get one. So I've always seen the background checks as an infringement because they're flawed. Every one of the mass shooters, the one in Parkland, the shooter in Aztec, all of them passed background checks. Did it stop the shooting? No. Was it the type of firearm? No. What was it? After a lot of soul searching, I had to come to the conclusion myself, something we've always known in the 2A community. There's nuts. It's that 2% of people that shouldn't own a firearm. Is this an attempt to address that 2%? Yes. So I've never had a problem with getting a background check done. I've always saw it as an infringement. To me, it's also gotten to be kind of woke. And what I mean by that is a couple years ago, I had filled out a firearm transfer, and I had to change my answer to a question, and I didn't understand why. And more specifically, I had to answer another question I didn't know existed. So I am now considered white with a Hispanic indicator, basically. What that means is that I have two questions on a Form 4473 instead of one for a race and ethnicity. I don't understand it. I never have. What the hell does it matter? If you're going to check my background to see if I'm a criminal, okay. Law abiding people, you're not going to catch anyone. The other thing that this law does, though, that's interesting, but we'll see how it plays out, is if you're denied. So that means if you're a felon that they know shouldn't have a firearm, that this is referred to local law enforcement for enforcement of the law, because that's a felony. You can't do that. So it is a potential that they could take some really dumb people off the streets who are trying to get a firearm. And when I say that, if you're a felon, as the law sits right now, you can't own a firearm. Okay. Do I agree with that? Absolutely not. And why I say that is, I've said this before, and I may catch flack for it if I ever get popular enough, is if you're a felon and you have served your time, you've served your sentence, your rights should come back to you. There has to be a path for redemption. Otherwise, we're just going to always end up in that cycle of people just in the system. So that's the hippie part of me, I guess. So this is what my good friend at Go Rogo asked me to cover, because it's going to affect anyone that's purchasing a firearm. Okay, you're going to need to be more lenient, for one, with the seller, the FFL guys. Why? Because it isn't they're relying on a system that is already flawed. So they're going to have to move at this system that's already overwhelmed, already underfunded, already has flaws, and they're going to have to wait on that system. And it used to be to where after 3 days they could just proceed. Now they have to wait 10 days. Now they have to, if you still want to proceed, they have to file an appeal. You have to file an appeal. They have to wait for that term, so that takes inventory that they're going to have to hold and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. All this is dependent on Uncle Sam and the government for no real benefit. Okay? So that's what's coming, or what is here now. Again, that's them. So you're going to have to be more patient on them. They're going to have to be a little more patient with you, because if you're paying for something, most places in the world, you get it. It's only the fact that we have to go through legal hoops that we can't. So this sucks for that. And for the people that are already employed by these guys, they're probably already overwhelmed, and there's a lot of people probably wanting them to do more with less without any notice. Okay? So I feel for them. At the same time, I don't believe we should have to do this anyway. Rumble, share, subscribe, be great, and go rogue.